Hey everyone, welcome to a special bonus episode of Locked On Lakers. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Darvin Ham goes off on his firing from the Lakers. Does he have a point? It's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcast, this one's always going to be free and never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 26,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy, all of whom are wondering why I'm sitting here in the dark. It's because, for those of you watching on YouTube, it's because the news demands it, and my internet's not cooperating. But it doesn't matter because Darvin Ham, Andy, who didn't have much to say, smartly, wisely, perhaps, after he was let go by the Lakers over the summer, finally opened up. And boy, did he open up to Marc Spears at ESPN.
This was on the heels of the Bucks winning the NBA Cup. Darvin has now been either the head coach or I think the first lead assistant on both of the NBA Cup championship teams. He and Taurean Prince have officially become the Scorsese and De Niro of the NBA Cup so far. And Darvin was asked about his time with the Lakers, and he said, quote, "To do as well as I did, I swear to God, anywhere else, I'm probably looking at as an extension with what I did. I'm not talking about feelings. I'm talking about actual facts. They go from making it to the playoffs to the Final Four in the NBA, the conference finals, and then you win the in-season tournament, navigate through all the injuries, and win both your play-in games to get to the playoffs. People always talk about losing to Denver, but they never talk about how we got to Denver. We beat a kick-ass young squad, Memphis, and beat Golden State. I'm not..."
So, okay, and that's just part of it. We'll get to more of it later.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, there's more. And we have a great preview, though, for the regular show on the back-to-back with a day in the middle, but two consecutive games against Sacramento. We'll be talking to Matt George from Locked On Kings later on for Thursday's show. So no real space there for that. So we need to respond separately to that. And when he was let go, you and I both made the point, and quite frankly, I was yelled at, commented at, whatever you want to say, from people on the channel, on Twitter at Cam Brothers and all that stuff for being too kind to Darvin, often last year for pointing some of these things out. We noted that some of the things that Darvin was being blamed for, some of the lack of success for the team and things like that, were not his fault. Darvin was dealt a very challenging hand, I think, and I know you agree, played it poorly, but it was dealt a really challenging hand and
played elements of it poorly at the very least. Maybe not the I would say his time at the metaphorical poker table, he didn't play all of it badly, but I think there were moments and hands that he played badly that really mattered.
And so, when you break it all down, was it quote unquote fair? I don't know. Fairness got nothing to do with it a lot of times. And the Lakers were in a position where they had to let him go. But just this quote here, what we're starting with is him outlining that basic premise. Anywhere else, under different circumstances, you go from a sub 500 team to the Western Conference Finals. That enough is going to be to buy you a couple more years. And then, the second year of that deal, they still made the playoffs. They still, they weren't a disaster. They rallied and lost to a better Denver team that has their number. What I think is interesting about this, though, Andy, is it is a start of a trend throughout his comments to Marc Spears, where Darvin is correct and leaves out important context.
Yeah. I think that's a big piece of both these comments we're going to discuss now and some of the other comments that we hear from Darvin. I think Darvin is absolutely correct that most organizations, if those are your 2 years, you're at the very least not getting fired. I don't know if you're necessarily getting an extension off that, but in most situations, you are not likely getting fired for having made the playoffs both years you are there, one of them getting to the Western Conference Finals. And if nothing else, it speaks to, and Lord knows this is something you and I have been critical of with this organization dating far back to when we actually had this show. But for those who followed our careers, it's come up with us time and time again. This organization does not really know what it wants in a coach, because I don't think they think the role of a coach is all that important, especially since Dr. Buss's passing. I think it's truly become a thing where they do not know what they want in a coach, because I don't think they consider the role of coach nearly as important as they consider the presence of superstars, like first, second, third, maybe 10th. That being said, he is leaving out some of the actual issues that went on while he was coaching the team that I think made it difficult, like you said, to keep him here.
So he goes on to say, quote, "I'm not a mudslinger, and I'm not going to wait until I'm 51 to become one. As a franchise I'm working for, the expectations can be unrealistic at certain points in time. To be 33 and 49 when I was hired with an unbalanced roster, turn that around, make a Western Conference final. The very next year, we're plus 10 and wins." Goes on. It's being reported, this is a part you could tell, it's the injuries the Lakers had, and things like that last year. He goes on to say, and this is a part you could tell really stung, "It's being reported like I'm just throwing some lineups out in the wall to see what sticks. No, man, we were really navigating a lot of guys from being hurt to having the oldest player in the league, meaning LeBron, to navigating AD's injury history. It was a lot. Some of the bleep that was coming out, wow, bro, I don't know X's and O's. I was winging it. Dude, that was the most disappointing stuff. How mean and so much stuff people are saying online. The best thing I could do was block out the outside noise." Again, the context matters. Like, there is a lot of truth to what he's saying. Like, they didn't have necessarily the ability to play consistent lineups all the time, ... But he's leaving out context.
The biggest context, and I think ultimately the thing that led to Darvin, retaining Darvin being untenable, was when there was the opportunity to get back to more of the combinations involving LeBron, AD, D'Lo, Reeves, Rui, Vando, i.e. the group that took you to the Western Conference Finals. That was the core. The reluctance to work with that group. And when Darvin talked about resenting the idea of being presented as throwing bleep at the wall and seeing if it sticks, I don't doubt that there was methodology to what Darvin was doing. Like, in Darvin's mind, I'm willing to give him credit that it wasn't all randomness. And I remember, you can go back and listen to the shows if you want, in case anybody thinks this is revisionism. I'll actually include the first show we did in the wake of Darvin's firing, just to talk so people can hear how we talked about it in the show notes. But I asked Darvin point blank, like, is there a reason that you are not going with that group? Like, that you're seemingly avoiding it, like wondering, is there really a reason? Like, maybe something I don't see, Brian doesn't see, certainly the players who clearly want this and they are itching for more of that look are expecting. And Darvin's answer was, in so many words, no, not really. I just haven't done it. And when you are doing basically everything except the thing that all of your players are expecting and think will work, and they don't understand it, that is going to be something that can lead to, as what happened with Darvin, losing the locker room.
Yeah, and ultimately, by the way, did work, and and things like that made a big difference.
That it worked further illustrated the frustrations a lot of people were having.
Correct. The problems the Lakers have, while they are not a garbage team, they're not trash, they haven't fallen off a cliff, it's not a dumpster fire, like, it could be a lot worse. But the problems that they have and the limitations that they have are not purely based on coaching. They are not. We are learning that it was not, changing the coach did not miraculously cure the Lakers of some of their problems. I'm going to think this year's roster is weaker than last year's, but either way, the coach has not, quote unquote, solved the problem. The Lakers have an ownership problem in the Genie Bus. While I think, obviously very dedicated to the team, very dedicated to the city, very dedicated to her father's legacy, is a bad lead manager in the sense that she, I think, is unwilling to step out and push for larger changes, to step outside of her comfort zone, to hold people accountable in ways that they ought to be. And mostly I'm talking about her relationship with Rob Pelinka. I think Rob Pelinka has done a much better job of satisfying ownership than he has of really nailing the job that he's supposed to do, and is protecting himself too much in terms of having this insular and small organization around him, which benefits him. He has not done a very good job over the last couple of seasons. None of that necessarily means that Darvin can't also have done a poor job last year. And the bottom line is, whether, again, it is fair or not, there was no way they could bring him back with the same team. You either needed to move LeBron. I mean, it was telling later in the story. He goes on to say, I haven't talked to, when they played, we saw the Bucks, when the Bucks saw the Lakers, dapped up a couple guys, Jackson Hayes, and said hi to D'Lo and all these. Hadn't talked to LeBron, haven't talked to AD. You can't be the coach of the Lakers and not have a solid relationship with those guys. And he wasn't going to have it. And so,
it seemed like he began with one, for what it's worth.
But the stuff that you're talking about in terms of losing the locker room, you could tell in training camp, players needed a change. It's ironic. Jason Tim pointed this out, friend of the show and a great basketball voice in NBA media. Doc, who was critical of it, in just one line, he thought he got a rough, said of Darvin, he thought he got a rough deal and all of that. Doc is in Milwaukee replacing Adrian Griffin, who was fired under similar circumstances as Darvin, which was, the team was in Griffin's case very successful, but the players wanted him out. It was very clear, it wasn't going to work in the long term, so they pulled the plug, and that's why Doc Rivers has that job. And so, I guess I'm happy for Darvin in the sense that he is sticking up for himself. I do think he is a very good guy. The person is rock solid. I think he's going to get another opportunity to coach, and I think he'll learn from what happened in LA. And I don't think anything he said in this story was untrue. He just omits a lot of stuff that explains the other half of it, and why a lot of people felt like this team was not being coached to maximize what was available to it.
I feel like a lot of Darvin's comments, insofar as relaying his own job, like you said, I think there are details that get left out. You remember last year there was that point where he went off on the way Laker fans, as he said, living and dying with every single game you play, that it's ludicrous, actually, direct words. Whatever you think of how JJ Redick has done in comparison to Darvin, and we're seeing a lot in the YouTube comments that JJ doesn't look any better. Some people think JJ actually looks worse. Like, why isn't JJ getting the same treatment or scrutiny from you and I? The biggest comment I would say is he needs more time, in the same way Darvin's first season, before you really start making sweeping evaluations of either one of them. They should, as first-time head coaches, both of them are afforded a certain amount of time. Although, I've made, as an example, very clear, I think that JJ defensively was doing far, far, far too much switching, automatic, all that stuff. But that is, some of it is you have to give the new guy time to settle in. But JJ has done a good job, if nothing else, repeatedly saying, I need to do better. And that is messaging that you also did not hear enough from Darvin, which will make these type of comments, about the Laker fans freaking out. Or remember, famously, he noted that, what am I supposed to do when 10 games in a row, one of my starters is bleeping the bed? Things like that are, again, what makes it, I think, untenable for Darvin to keep this job, even if I think everything Darvin is saying about the organization in terms of lack of realistic goals, like how much self-examination goes on with Pelinka and Genie and down the line, I think he's 100% accurate with that. And that's nothing you and I haven't said before many times.
So we'll see. I don't think the Lakers are going to have much to say about it. I don't think LeBron and AD are really going to comment about this stuff, but it is interesting. And it's one of these moments. And the reason we really talk about it, other than it's news and it's worth talking about, is just that it is another opportunity to contextualize where the Lakers are now. And the accuracy of Darvin's comments reflect in a lot of ways some of the problems the Lakers are still seeing. And when you criticize JJ, when you criticize front office, whatever it might be, all of this stuff is still relevant. So plenty more to come for Thursday. Again, the preview of these critical games with the Sacramento Kings, coming with Matt George of Locked On Kings. So a little bonus here, the regular show coming as well. And we, of course, will try to do as much of this type of thing. If there are things that we talk about on the show that you don't think we necessarily spend enough time on, leave it in questions, leave it in comments. Let us know, what would you like us to do on these little mini shows and stuff like that. And we will. It's easy to respond to news like this, but if there's something that you want to hear more about that we might not have time in the regular show, we'll record one of these things. Yeah. So let us know. But before we go, Andy, we have to tell people about this.
Well, the Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. You can tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you bet just $5. $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, and it can help you with the process. Like, let's say you get a hunch in the middle of a game, but you just want to confirm your instincts. You can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Locked On Lakers also brought to you by Game Time. I am a huge fan of this app, of this service. I like to do stuff with my kids, with going to events. We like to do soccer games. It's obviously the off season now, but it'll be rolling around again quickly, whether that's Angel City, whether that's LAFC or Galaxy, whatever it might be. What we like to do, though, because we're busy, because we don't necessarily commit to things well in advance, we watch those tickets right up until game time. And I don't mean the app, but I mean, literally game time. And using the Game Time app, I know exactly where the seats are going to be. I can tell you exactly how much they're going to cost because of the all-in pricing, and the features make it really easy to see if this is a good game for us to jump on and get out to the stadium and watch some of our favorite teams play. So you can get yourself into the game by using Game Time. You download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. We'll see everyone with Matt George tomorrow.